The young veteran sneered at the volunteer nurse as she walked past his room. "What do you know about war, lady?" he said, his voice loud enough for the whole hospital wing to hear. "You just push pills and walk that stupid, happy dog." He looked at the quiet golden retriever walking beside her and laughed. He had no idea the woman he was mocking had pulled more wounded soldiers out of hot landing zones than he'd had hot meals. He had no idea the dog he called stupid was the son of a hero who had saved more lives than he could count. Her name was Clara. She was in her early 40s, a beautiful woman with a quiet strength that seemed out of place in the noisy VA hospital. Her black hair was tied back, but a few stubborn streaks of white framed her face. Her brown eyes were kind, but they held a deep sadness, a story that she never told. She wore a simple, unzipped jacket over a black tank top, and she walked the halls with a calm purpose that soothed the older veterans, but seemed to annoy the younger ones. Beside her, always, was Gunner, the old, gentle therapy dog who was the only one who ever saw the real pain she hid. The wing she volunteered in was a place of ghosts. In one corner, a group of older Vietnam veterans, led by a grumpy old soldier everyone just called Sarge, would sit and quietly play cards. They respected Clara. They saw the soldier that was still inside her. In the other corner were the younger vets back from recent wars. They were loud, angry, and bitter. Their leader, a young man named Marcus, whose leg had been injured in an IED blast, made it his mission to make life hard for everyone. He especially disliked Clara. He hated her calm. He hated the way the old vets looked at her. He saw a woman who hadn't earned the right to be there. "Look at her," Marcus would say to his friends. "She walks in here, all smiles, thinking she understands us. She's just another civilian who wants to feel good about herself by helping the poor, broken soldiers." Today, he decided to confront her directly. As she and Gunner walked by his room, he blocked her path. "My buddies and I were talking," he said, his voice a low growl. "We don't think a civilian should be working here. You don't get it. You don't know what it's like." Clara stopped. Gunner sat patiently by her side. She looked at Marcus, her brown eyes steady. "You're right," she said, her voice soft. "I don't know what your war was like. I only know what mine was." Marcus laughed. "Your war? What, a battle at the local shopping mall? You're a nurse, a volunteer. You serve soup and walk a dog. Don't you dare compare your easy life to what we went through." From across the hall, Sarge watched, his old eyes hard. He saw the way Marcus puffed out his chest. He saw the way Clara stood her ground, not with anger, but with a deep, unbreakable stillness. He saw the soldier in her that Marcus was too young and too angry to recognize. Suddenly, a loud crash of thunder shook the hospital. The lights flickered once, twice, and then went out completely, plunging the entire wing into darkness. A moment later, a high-pitched, steady alarm began to scream from the room of one of the oldest veterans. If you believe that you should never judge a hero by their job, type "respect the nurse." Panic erupted in the darkness. Shouts echoed down the hallway. The steady beeping from the old veteran's room intensified, a frantic cry for help in the sudden silence of the lost power. The younger veterans, so loud and angry just moments before, were now disoriented and scared in the pitch black. "What's going on?" Marcus yelled, his voice filled with fear. "The lights! Someone do something!" From the corner where the older veterans played cards, Sarge's voice cut through the chaos, calm and firm. "Stay where you are. Someone get a flashlight." But it was Clara who took charge. Her voice, which had been so soft moments ago, now rang with a clear, commanding authority that surprised everyone. "Sarge, you and the others stay together. Keep everyone calm. Marcus, you and your friends, follow my voice." Gunner, as if understanding the shift in the atmosphere, moved closer to Clara, his body tense and alert. He let out a soft, reassuring whine. Clara didn't wait for anyone. She moved quickly and confidently through the black hallway, her footsteps sure. "The emergency generator should kick in any second," she called out. "Marcus, are you there?" "Yeah, I'm here," Marcus mumbled, his voice still shaky. He and his friends stumbled along behind the sound of her voice. "Good. Marcus, I need you to go to the nurse's station. Feel your way along the wall. There should be a box of chemical light sticks on the counter. Can you find them?" Clara's voice was calm, giving clear, simple instructions, the kind you would give someone in a combat situation. Chemical lights? What are those? Marcus asked, confused. They glow when you snap them. Find them and bring them back here, quickly. Clara continued toward the room with the beeping alarm. She knew this wing of the hospital. She knew where the patients were, who needed the most help. As she reached the old veteran's door, she could hear his labored breathing over the frantic beeping of the medical equipment. Okay, I'm going in, she said, her voice low and focused. Marcus, hurry with those lights. She felt her way into the room. The darkness was absolute. She could hear the old man struggling to breathe. The beeping was coming from a heart monitor. She needed to see what was happening. Just then, Gunnar nudged her hand with his wet nose, and she felt the soft brush of his tail against her leg. He was her eyes in the dark. She trusted him implicitly. Stay close, boy, she whispered. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed from down the hallway, followed by a grunt of pain. Marcus, what was that? Clara called out, her voice sharp with concern. I tripped over something, Marcus replied, his voice muffled. I think I dropped the lights. Frustration flickered across Clara's face, but she didn't let it show in her voice. Okay, Marcus. Just stay where you are. I'll be back for you in a moment. She focused on the patient in the room. Guided by the frantic beeping and Gunnar's quiet presence, she began to assess the situation by touch. She found his hand cold and weak. She listened to his shallow breaths. She knew she didn't have much time. Just then, a loud snapping sound came from the hallway, followed by a soft, green glow. Marcus had finally figured out the chemical light sticks. He and his friends slowly made their way toward the room, their faces pale and wide-eyed in the eerie light. But in the brief moments of complete darkness, something had happened in that room. Something that Marcus and his friends didn't see. Something that would soon change the way they looked at the quiet volunteer nurse forever. In the black void, with only the frantic beeping as her guide, Clara's calm, practiced hands had already begun to work. If you believe that true heroes act without needing the light, type ready in the dark, Marcus finally stumbled into the dark room, holding the strange glowing green stick. The eerie light spread across the scene, and what he saw made his breath catch in his throat. The room was not in chaos. It was a place of total control. And the person in control was Clara. She was kneeling on the bed next to the old veteran, her face a mask of intense focus. She had already ripped open the man's hospital gown and was performing perfect CPR, her hands moving with a steady, powerful rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Her movements were clean, efficient, and strong. In the dark, she must have snagged her jacket on the metal bed frame. It was torn open at the collar, ripped down the front. The jacket hung open, revealing the black tank top underneath and something else, something shocking in the green glow. On her upper chest, just below her neck, was a tattoo. It was a single black angel wing, its feathers sharp and detailed. The wing was crossed with the blade of a helicopter rotor. It was a strange and powerful symbol. Just then, a bright, powerful beam of light cut through the darkness from the doorway. Sarge, the old Vietnam vet, stood there with a heavy-duty flashlight. He had found it in the emergency locker. His light fell on Clara's face, then moved down to her chest and stopped on the tattoo. Sarge froze. His tough, old face went pale. He whispered a single word, a name full of awe and memory. Dustoff. Marcus and his friends stared, confused. What? What's Dustoff? Sarge didn't take his eyes off Clara as she continued to work, her rhythm never breaking. In my war, Sarge began, his voice low and raspy, full of respect. When you were wounded, when you were pinned down, when you were sure you were going to die, you would pray to hear one word over the radio. Dustoff. It meant a medevac bird was on its way. He took a step into the room, his flashlight beam steady on Clara. Those Dustoff crews were the bravest people I ever saw. They flew into hot landing zones with no guns on their helicopters. They would land in the middle of a firefight, bullets flying everywhere, just to pull us out. The young vets were silent, listening to the old soldier's story as Clara's hands continued their life-saving work. The nurses on those birds, Sarge said, his voice now thick with emotion. We called them the Dustoff Angels. They would jump out into the mud and the blood and run to us. They were the first friendly face we saw. They were the ones who held our hands and told us we were going to make it home. He pointed his flashlight beam directly at the tattoo on Clara's chest. That mark, he said, his voice now a powerful growl, the angel wing and the rotor blade. That was the unofficial symbol of the best damn Dustoff crew that ever flew. I know because they were the ones who pulled me out of a burning field almost 50 years ago. The weight of his words fell on the young men like a physical blow. The woman they had mocked, the quiet volunteer they had called weak, the nurse they thought knew nothing about war, was a living legend. Her calm wasn't softness. It was the iron control of a hero who had faced death 1,000 times. The streaks of white in her hair were not from age. They were from stress, and the sadness in her eyes was from the memory of the soldiers she couldn't save. They stood in the doorway, completely humbled, watching a real warrior at work. If you believe that a hero's scars are their medals, type "We see you." Clara continued her steady, powerful chest compressions, her face a mask of pure focus. Just as she was preparing to give another breath, the hospital's backup generators roared to life. The lights flickered on, flooding the room with a harsh, white light. A team of doctors and nurses rushed in, expecting to find chaos. Instead, they found a scene of perfect, calm control. Clara had already stabilized the patient. She looked up at the lead doctor and gave a quick, professional report of the man's condition. She then stepped back, her job done, and let the medical team take over. The old veteran was wheeled out, his life saved. The hospital wing was quiet again, but everything had changed. The young veterans, led by Marcus, stood in a small, humbled group. They watched as Clara gently picked up her torn jacket, her movements looking tired now that the crisis was over. Marcus finally found the courage to walk over to her. He stood before her, his head bowed in shame. "Ma'am," he began, his voice thick with regret. We are so sorry for everything we said, for how we treated you. We were wrong. We were just so wrong." Clara looked at the young, broken soldier in front of her. She saw not the arrogant bully from before, but a young man in deep pain. Her expression softened. "You called Gunnar a stupid, happy dog," she said, her voice quiet. "His father died on my helicopter. He was a search and rescue dog. He pulled a wounded Marine to safety just before a mortar hit. He died a hero. Gunnar isn't just a pet. He's a legacy. He's here to help the men who are too proud to ask for it." She then looked over at the older veterans who were watching from their corner. "Those old men you and your friends ignore," she continued. "They carry wounds you can't see. They have ghosts that haunt them in the quiet. My job here isn't to push pills. My job is to sit with them in that quiet, so they don't have to be alone with their ghosts. That is a kind of combat, too, a different kind of battlefield." Marcus had tears in his eyes. He finally understood. In the weeks that followed, the hospital wing was a different place. The anger between the young vets and the old vets was gone, replaced by a quiet respect. Marcus and his friends started joining the old soldiers for their card games. They didn't talk much about war. Instead, they listened. They listened to the stories the old men told. And for the first time, they felt like they were part of the same tribe. Clara continued her volunteer work, but now she had help. Every day, Marcus would meet her at the entrance. He would walk with her and Gunnar on their rounds through the hospital. He learned the names of all the older veterans. He learned which ones liked to talk and which ones just needed someone to sit with them in silence. He learned the true meaning of service from the quiet woman he had once mocked. One afternoon, Clara and Marcus were walking with Gunnar down the main hall. They passed by Sarge's corner. The old Vietnam vet looked up from his card game. He looked at Marcus, then at Clara. He didn't say a word. He just gave a slow, deep nod of approval. Clara nodded back. Her work was still not done. She was still a Dustoff Angel, still flying into the dark places to rescue soldiers. She was just on a different battlefield now, a battlefield of memory and pain. And here, just like in the wars of the past, she was saving lives, one quiet moment at a time. If you believe that a hero's duty never truly ends, type "still serving."